My name is Mark, and I am a co-host on the Oregon Files podcast, and we would love for you to give us a listen. We don't cuss and we don't discuss politics, so that's a win right there. We are based in Roseburg, Oregon, and cover everything from Bigfoot to buried treasures, UFOs, to interviews with amazing people who have a story to tell. Now my co-host, Elliot Bowman.
Thank you, Mark. We would appreciate your listen. If you feel you got a story to be immortalized on a podcast and have it shared on YouTube, Audible, wherever you get your podcasts, reach out to us on Oregon Files Podcast at yahoo.com or on Instagram or Facebook on our website, www.theoregonfilespodcast.com.
Nailed it.
Cheers.
Writing the West. Stories and poems by Rick Steber. Read by Michael Messner and friends. The Goose Hunt. An old hermit lived far back in the woods by a small lake. One unusually long and cold winter, he ran low on food. Not until the third week of March did the weather break and a spot near shore open on the ice. The morning quiet was broken by the anxious chatter of a flock of geese. They dropped from the gray sky onto that small patch of water. The hermit was anxious to have fresh meat. He took his rifle off the pegs on the wall and sneaked toward the noise, being very deliberate in his approach. Slipping from tree to tree, he could hear the geese splashing in the water and talking among themselves about how lucky they had been to find this open pool. Finally, the hermit reached a windfall, the last bit of cover between him and the geese. He eased up and looked over. The geese had moved out of the water and were walking around on the ice. He waited for the opportune moment to kill the most geese with a single shot. At last it came. The entire flock stepped to the edge of the open water for a drink. In unison, they lowered their heads and then tilted them back. They were in a perfect line. The hermit took a deep breath, held it, and squeezed the trigger. In a mad beating of wings, the geese rose into the sky and flew away. The hermit could not believe his eyes. He ventured forth to investigate and discovered he had come as close to a feast as was possible. For years after, the hermit would tell the story of the long winter and his goose hunt. And for evidence of how close he had come to bagging the entire flock, he would bring out a mason jar with 17 goose beaks. Goodnight-Loving. At the age of 10, Charles Goodnight moved with his family from Illinois to Texas. By the time he was 20, he was involved in ranching and had accumulated a sizable herd of cattle that roamed the northwest Texas rangeland. Goodnight believed in fighting for what he thought was right. He joined a local militia in their long-running battle against Comanche raiders and later became a member of the Texas Rangers. When the Civil War broke out, he joined the Confederate forces, returning to Texas at the end of the war and undertaking a roundup of his cattle that had been left to roam on the open range during his absence. Goodnight went in partnership with another rancher, Oliver Loving. They combined their cattle herds and decided to drive them across the deserts of West Texas to the new settlements in New Mexico and north to Colorado. They set out with a herd of 2,000 head, blazing a new trail from Belknap, Texas to Fort Sumner, New Mexico. This section became famous during the era of the cattle drives and was known as the Goodnight-Loving Trail. The two men profited from their joint venture. Between them, they pocketed more than $12,000 and immediately returned to Texas to assemble another herd of cattle. But Loving's financial success was short-lived. He died at the hands of renegade Comanches who attacked him on the trail in 1867. Goodnight, honoring Loving's dying request, delivered his partner's body for burial in Texas. Over the next decade, Goodnight extended his cattle drives as far as Granada, Colorado. In 1877, he went into partnership with John Adair, an investor, and they soon amassed a ranch that covered more than 1 million acres. Goodnight eventually sold his interest in the ranch, and in his later years he dabbled in everything from mining to producing movies. He died in 1929. Edge of land. He journeys to the edge of land to try and forget, hoping the ocean will fix his broken heart. Here the shifting sand is white as chalk. Blue waves roll in and roll out again. The air is gray, dank, and sullen. The setting sun lays bare his soul in strange ways he can never describe, causing him to search inside for answers as to whether this day or his world is ending. River Raving. A gaunt man, his clothes in shreds and staggering on frost-bitten feet, arrived at a prospector's camp. He raved about gold and a native attack. Piecing together his story, it appeared the delirious man, along with two partners, had been prospecting in the Wind River Range, and, after finding nuggets in a creek, they had located an exposed gold vein on a canyon wall. One evening, when his partners did not return from working the mine, the man had gone in search of them and found blood on the rocks at the entrance to the mine. The deranged man suddenly stopped his ramblings, cocked his head, and said,
"You hear them gunshots? They'll be all right. They'll come back. Oh, yeah. Yes, they'll come back. Getting dark. Better check. Freitag! Smith! Where are you? Answer me! Are you hurt? Are you waiting for morning? Come on, hike up the hill!"
He ducked his head under his blanket, and it was a long time before he cautiously peeked out and resumed his strange discourse.
"Hey, play dead. Wait! Don't move! Here he comes! Boom! Boom! Run! 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 Run!"
The man, who later gave his name as Hurlburt, recovered, and when he was once again rational, he told how he had made his way out of the mountains after the native attack, how he had been trapped in a blizzard and been forced to exist on the bark he stripped off of trees and ate. Once he killed a porcupine and carried the carcass with him, feeding on it for days. Hurlburt enlisted the support of a number of the miners and led several expeditions, but he was never able to locate the lost mine of the Wind River Range. Measles.
"It was us wagon immigrants who came into the country and brought the measles,"
related pioneer Martha Collins.
"In the native camp near our cabin, the children began dying and the women wailed day and night. Chief Quantley came to our house, said he knew all the children in our house had been sick and that we had recovered. He said he had a daughter who had come down with measles and he wanted some of the white man's medicine to make her well. Mother had the little girl brought to our house. She kept her warm, away from drafts, and gave her herbs and teas. Soon she was well, and Mother returned her to the native camp. The following morning, Quatley rode up to the cabin driving a herd of horses. He tried to give them to Mother for saving his daughter's life, but Mother refused, saying, 'No, I cannot accept such a gift. I only did what any mother would do.' After that, Quatley kept us supplied with wild game, and we always had hazelnuts and huckleberries when they were in season. We never lacked for food."
You've been listening to Writing the West. The stories and poetry in this podcast are by Rick Steber and appear in books by him. Log on to www.ricksteberauthor.com to find out more. This program was produced by Michael Messner by permission of the author. Special thanks to Michael Tucker, Rachel Pulliam, and Art Shingler. Thank you for listening.